It is within our human nature to run. Since time immemorial, people from around the world have ran for a variety of reasons: to hunt, to travel, to survive, and for their own enjoyment. The first ever Olympic Games, dating back to 776 BC, is evidence of this. It consisted solely of a foot race. As times progressed and institutions of sport were created, the idea of athletics evolved. Yet running continued to be popular, as it is both accessible in nature and is, in its essence, a celebration of the strength and resilience of the human body. However, athletic institutions in Canada, in addition to others, have historically seen the exclusion of Indigenous peoples. While the area of elite athletics is difficult to reach based on physical factors alone, issues of colonialism and racism have only increased this difficulty. The following clip from Annie Fraser-Henry's 2003 film, Spirit of the Game, provides insight as to these issues within the context of track and field.
Yeah, it's tough. In track and field, it's more against, seems to be it's more against Native people, because there's like not too many of us that compete at a high level. There's always black people out there and white people, they get along, but as soon as you get some Indian guy out there, you know, they're like watching me like I'm from outer space or something, you know, and I'm just hanging out with them, being me, you know.
Despite the obstacles and exclusion experienced by Indigenous athletes within this context, they are seen thriving within this sphere throughout Canadian history. In this series, we will follow the historical journeys of 3 Indigenous distance runners, all 3 of whom experienced great athletic success at the elite level. These athletes include Joe Keeper, Angela Chalmers, and Tom Longboat. Within this docuseries, we will explore their childhoods, athletic careers, controversies and difficulties within their lives, legacies, and the relation of all these areas to their Indigenous heritage. Tom Longboat was born on June 4, 1886, on the Six Nations Reserve in Ontario, a member of the Onondaga Nation. As a child, he briefly attended an Anglican residential school, but did not stay long as he was able to successfully run away. He then spent the rest of his adolescence working as a farm laborer near his home, where he began to develop his abilities as a runner. At the age of 19, he began to make a name for himself within the sport of distance running after placing second at a Victoria Day race within a competitive field. Following this win, Longboat continued to progress and reached celebrity status in 1907 after winning the prestigious Boston Marathon. Upon his return to Toronto, he was greeted with a massive celebration which included a parade, speech from the mayor, lighting of torches, and an audience of about 200,000 fans. In 1908, Longboat qualified for the Olympic marathon and was a gold medal favorite heading into the race. However, the conditions during the race were extremely poor, and Longboat, as well as half the field, were unable to finish. While his unfortunate performance was a result of factors out of his control, media coverage of the event did not take a sympathetic perspective towards him. Some outlets reported that his collapse was due to lack of fitness, while others stated that his performance was a result of drug use and a bad hangover. Shortly after this disappointment, Longboat announced his retirement from elite athletics. However, this proved to be short-lived, as within a few months he had returned to competition. In the weeks following his return to the sport, he set a new Canadian 5-mile record. He continued to progress within the sport until 1914, when he enlisted in the Canadian Army. He then went to serve in World War I. While he did compete in several races during the war, the start of World War I ultimately saw his retirement from elite distance running. Following his return from the war, Longboat married and had 4 children. He worked for many years as a street cleaner and lived on the Six Nations Reserve with his family. He died in 1949 and was buried in traditional Onondaga fashion. Longboat's life and experiences were greatly shaped by his indigeneity. He twice represented Canada on an international stage, at the 1908 Olympics and during his military service in World War I. However, he was not allowed Canadian citizenship at the time due to his Indigenous heritage, and was therefore representing Canada internationally while not even legally being considered a Canadian. Media coverage of Longboat's time as an elite athlete and celebrity are also indicative of how his experiences were shaped by his Indigenous heritage. He was repeatedly cast with a negative light, and baseless accusations of alcoholism plagued his media representation. The media presented Longboat through a highly racialized lens, and although he never spoke on this aspect of his career, the racism he faced would have been impossible to completely ignore. However, there is much evidence that Longboat remained in touch with his Indigenous roots, as following his retirement from elite athletics, he lived the remainder of his life on the Six Nations Reserve, and his burial followed traditional Onondaga protocol. His life was therefore greatly shaped by his indigeneity, both during his time as an athlete and celebrity, as well as following his retirement and through his legacies. Longboat's effect on the world of elite athletics persists to the present day. In fact, his success as an athlete has permanently changed the sport of distance running. His approach to training remains one of his greatest, yet most underrated legacies. He created an entirely unique training regime in distance running, which is now known as long, slow distance. This includes long training walks 2 to 3 days per week in lieu of running. This approach focuses on endurance rather than speed, and has since revolutionized the sport of distance running. Longboat was never credited for the creation of long, slow distance. This fact is indicative of the ways in which his indigeneity affected his life and legacies. Rather than celebrate this creation by Longboat, he was instead accused of being lazy, not knowing how to train, and overall criticized for his revolutionary approach, which has since fundamentally changed training within the sport. Longboat's legacies within distance running surpass his revolutionary training approach and extend to the athletic sphere as a whole. His great success and fame achieved through athletics has inspired many and has led to the development of multiple institutions aimed to promote Indigenous participation and excellence within athletics. As an example, the Tom Longboat Award is given annually to Indigenous athletes in Canada for outstanding athletic performance. In addition to opening the door for future athletic opportunities, this award provides public recognition and celebration of Indigenous athletes, as well as carrying great prestige. Following is a short clip of Jocelyn Larocque, winner of the 2018 Tom Longboat Award, describing her thoughts on receiving the award.
First of all, I think I'll just ask you the obvious question, which is, what does this particular honor mean to you?
It's such an honor, and I feel so blessed to be named to such a prestigious award, and to share this night with my family. It's really special.
Longboat's role as an Indigenous role model in the athletic sphere has also been important in the creation of specifically Indigenous institutions of sport, such as the North American Indigenous Games, which specifically celebrate Indigenous athletic talent and provide competitive opportunities for Indigenous athletes.
People come out, they know it's important for their communities, they know it's important for Indigenous peoples. It's about young people. It's about young people competing. It's about young people setting goals for themselves. It's all about teamwork, individual effort, it's perseverance, it's commitment, dedication. And you can transfer all of those to communities, building healthy, safe communities.
In conclusion, Tom Longboat is an example of the strength and resilience of both Indigenous people and indigeneity itself. Through his athletic excellence during his lifetime and lasting legacies, he serves as a symbol of Indigenous power in the face of colonialism and racism. Therefore, Tom Longboat shows the decolonizing nature of sport within the context of distance running in Canadian history.